Kia ora, and welcome to the Beer Jerk Beer of the Week drink along, where each week we discover a new and interesting beer and our subscribers all over New Zealand drink along. If you're not signed up, head to beerjerk.co.nz and get involved. Each week I also send out an email that includes a music pairing, some food pairings, and a bunch more information. And also we have a Facebook group called NZ Beer Jerks, so get involved there if you're not on there. This week we're drinking a beer from surely New Zealand's newest brewery, who are Pacific Coast Beverages, and this is Tapawera Pilsner. Pacific Coast Beverages are brand new. They're up in Mangawhai, and they were started by a chap called Adam Booth, who works as a surveyor, hence his interest in the Pacific Coast. And they've been working on an interesting series of collaborations with breweries all around the Pacific Rim. So yeah, Adam is obviously very interested in maps and geography and all that kind of thing. But probably even more interesting than that is that the head brewer is Sam Williamson, who was at Sawmill, you may recall, doing fantastic beers there for a long time. So he's been hard at work for the last, I don't know, probably a year, getting things set up and built. It's quite a big operation up there. It's, I think, 25 hectolitres is the brew kit. I haven't been up to visit yet because the brewery has actually literally just come online in a month or so ago, and it's not yet open as a venue. So I think that might be at some point in the next year that they'll open their tap room there, and they're also going to have quite a fancy sounding restaurant there. So a really cool operation, and obviously in Mangawhai, which is a really beautiful location where if you're watching this and you're extremely rich as an Aucklander, you probably have a second home up there. So it seems like there's some cool stuff happening in that part of New Zealand. Lots of new stuff popping up, good place to drink beer. And obviously north of Auckland, there's so many great breweries. So like Eight Wired, McLeod's are up there, Liberty is sort of up there and over a bit, Sawmill is nearby of course. So really brilliant beer destination that they've just turned up in, and they've started putting some really good beers out from the start, including this New Zealand Pilsner. We had this on keg the moment it came out at the Fridge and Flagon, and it was a Saturday where we had a homebrewers guild judging event, so they were judging some different beers. But yeah, the keg just got absolutely demolished when a couple of the homebrewers tried it first of all, and they just were really into it. And as you can probably understand if you're sipping along with me, this is a very tasty beer. It's super hop forward for a Pilsner. If you're watching this, you've probably had a Pilsner before. Pilsners they're crisp, they're dry, light embodied, easy drinking, with a real solid bitterness. And historically, Czech Pilsners, German Pilsners, that sort of part of the world around, Bavaria, Prague is where the best and first Pilsners came about, with classic old world hops like SARS specifically is really linked to Pilsners. But New Zealand Pilsner is a distinct style all of its own, and it's in the BJCP guidelines as a distinct and unique style. And it's defined by, the hops are a major thing, our unique character of our New Zealand hops that we have here. Often New Zealand Pilsners are actually made with an ale yeast, which I'm not that into personally. I think it should be a lager yeast which gives it a super light body and makes it really crisp. I think Pilsners that are made with an ale yeast, I don't really understand how they're different to an XPA, to be honest, but that's a rant for another day. This New Zealand Pilsner is made with a really interesting new yeast. It's the Laubrew Nova Lager, which is a new variant. It's a hybrid from Lallemand, which is able to ferment at warmer and cooler temperatures. So it's sort of a hybrid that can do what an ale yeast or a lager yeast can do in a way. But it's really been pitched as having lots of good characteristics, high flocculation. The beer clears out really nicely without need for finings or filtering. But most importantly, it has all the good attributes of a traditional lager yeast, but you can get loads of aroma and flavour from the hops, which is what us modern drinkers are often really into, and that the brewers are trying to trying to get into their beers, the real interesting hop profiles. And you will see on the can they talk about thiols, and thiols might be a thing that you've been reading about recently or you've heard about, and it's a word that keeps getting tossed around, and it's kind of confusing what a thiol actually is. But they're actually the flavour compounds. So they're like the little physical blocks of Lego that go into the aroma and the flavour of the molecules that are in hops. So that's the reason why you have a beer and it tastes like grapefruit or it smells like pine trees. So thiols are nothing new. It's just people have been talking about them more recently as we've seen some really interesting developments in yeast and new varieties that are coming out. So this Laubrew variety, the Nova Lager, definitely does help you get the, I suppose the most character, the most aroma flavour. Is interchangeable with the word thiols, really. But it sounds more techy to say thiols. And also it's been used heavily by Phantasm, which is a new product that was developed by Joss at Garage Project and their team. So this Phantasm, which is not in this is just an aside. It's a powder made from the skins of grapes that you can add to your brew to support and echo and improve the thiols in your beer. So that's been tested and used quite a bit overseas. I don't think they've let anyone use it in New Zealand yet, apart from a couple of Garage Project beers. They did one called Fizz Palace, like a low alcohol sour beer. So they've kept it for themselves so far. So it'd be interesting to see the progress of that. But as I say, that's an aside, because it has nothing to do with this beer, other than it being one of the reasons why people are talking about thiols quite a bit. So this is made with two of New Zealand's best hop varieties, which are Riwaka and Nelson Sauvin. The majority of New Zealand hops get sent overseas. In Britain, in the States, people are absolutely crazy about, well, these two hops in particular. Motueka is massive, and there's a whole bunch of just interesting stuff that's being grown, developed here in New Zealand that are unique hop varieties, but also unique thanks to the terroir. So most hops are grown around Nelson, as you might know, and also in Tapawera, which is I think about 40 kilometres from Nelson. So this was a collaboration with Hop Revolution, who are hop growers. So always a smart idea for a brewery to brew a beer in collaboration with the hop growers, because you know you're absolutely going to get the very best plots. And we've talked a little bit about this before, about a bag of Riwaka is not the same as the next bag of Riwaka. It's an agricultural product, and some people are better at growing it than others. Some of the properties of the terroir are better suited to certain varieties than other regions. And there's a region where you have a sort of a band around the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere where hops are grown the same as where grapes are grown, or any other fruit or flower that is reliant on certain temperatures and certain qualities of the soil, the direction the wind blows, the amount of rainfall that you have, whether it gets frosty at night time or not. So in New Zealand we have quite a few locations that are really perfect for hops. So yeah, Tapawera is one of them. So it's got Nelson Sauvin, which has just a really unique flavour to it, and it is that sort of white grape gooseberry flavour. Obviously it was named from Sauvignon Blanc grapes, and also Riwaka, which so sort of both those hops a bit. Nelson has more, I suppose, citrus character to it, but both of them to an extent people talk about things like diesel, like cat piss, which are both positive terms in this context. And there's a real just lovely greenness to this beer. It's definitely one that's going to really impress hopheads. It may be a bit too hoppy if you're a big fan of those classic German Pilsners, but as I say, if you're watching this, you're probably into hops, I'd say. So yeah, I think as the first beer out of the gate, and they've released, God, got, I think, 6 more beers since then. They've really got shot off with a bang. So when you see beers from Pacific Coast around the place, definitely give them a go. I've been really impressed with all the beers that I've had so far. So it's quite exciting to think about where they are going to go. And also, I didn't mention a core person on their team is Matt Eates, that used to work with me here at Beer Jerk. So you'll see him driving around Auckland, singing the praises of Pacific Coast. So it's awesome that he's working with those guys now. So yeah, pretty fantastic New Zealand Pilsner. Lots of interesting stuff going on. You should go and visit them once they are open. Keep an eye on their social medias. And other stuff going on. I've been talking about fresh hops quite a bit recently. They've basically sold out. So if you didn't get the box, you can't get one now. So sorry about that. I did warn you. Here at the Fridge and Flagon, we have a few cans left, and I think we might have 2 kegs that we've got on tap now. So swing along to the Fridge and Flagon. It's open on Fridays and Saturdays to grab the last few of the fresh hops. And one point on fresh hops is that they actually don't need to be drunk any faster than a regular IPA. Hoppy beers should be stored cold. They should be drunk as fresh as possible, but it's not as though the beer deteriorates any quicker than a normal hoppy beer. It's just the fast part is when it gets taken from harvest into the actual brew house. That needs to be like within 24 hours. But you do not need to panic about drinking a 3-week-old fresh hop pale ale or IPA. They're going to be completely fine. We've got other stuff lined up at the Fridge and Flagon. We had an amazing gig on Saturday. We did a film screening of Demolition Man, which was brilliant. Obviously, Fresh Hop Festival was the week before that. So yeah, we've been having some fun, me and Joe, this week, just working out what our schedule of events is going to be over the coming weeks. So keep an eye on our social medias. We are just working on Nano Fest, which is we had last winter. It's a festival where celebrating the smallest and most interesting breweries around New Zealand. So Joe's creating a really cool tap list and event for that. We'll have a food truck, etc. We're just scheduling in a mega Simpsons pub quiz in a few weeks. I know there are probably quite a few Simpsons fans watching, so more details on that to come. And yeah, a whole bunch of other interesting stuff. Lastly, it is Mother's Day next week. If your mum likes beer, head to the Beer Jerk website and buy her a mixed case of whatever she's into. We've got all sorts of interesting gifts there. All right, that is it from me. Great work, Pacific Coast. Awesome to see you on the scene. Looking forward to having another one of your beers in the Beer of the Week box. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time. Cheers.